Also looking at a new Bronco, just in case.
You think I'm getting a truck?
I've been wanting a truck for the past probably like 15 years. I think since I started learning how to drive.
Really?
Yeah, dude. Because I'm tall. I like having the big leg room. And also, it's this thing in Tucson where it's like a truck competition. Episode 125, by the way.
Damn, I was close.
It's like a truck competition because like if you're turning left on a green and the other car is taller than you, you basically are fucked. You're just waiting for that car, whatever, because you can't see anything past them.
Oh,
So
I
you
see
have to
what you mean.
Out-truck them. Get a truck, you can see over
taller.
trucks.
Yeah.
Then they're like, this asshole's in my way. I got to get a lift on my truck. And so it's this like competition, but I want to get in the game because I risk my life every time I do a left on green, dude.
That makes sense. I thought you were saying if you're making a left and somebody's coming up to make a right, you're fucked. And I was like, I'm faster almost always, so I'll go for it.
We've been talking about this a lot because Synovia is wrong on who has the right of way.
Okay.
If I'm turning right on a green,
you have the right of way.
And you're turning left on that same green, I have the right of way, right?
If you're taking the right, you have the right of way.
So many people over the past month in Tucson specifically have been turning left as if they have the right of way. I don't know what happened. There's some sort of thing I missed, like on Facebook or something.
It's a mix of snowbirds and also people just don't care anymore. They're like, hit me. I don't mind. It is legitimately troubling how poor people drive when snowbirds are here.
The snowbirds are bad for people who are unfamiliar. People who, I guess, they have houses in Tucson and then they escape for the rest of the year when it's not
100 degrees here.
Yeah, and they come back and stay here when the weather's nice from like October to February. And then the gem show, which is happening right now. So you probably get a lot of other tourists and stuff.
That's true.
People, you know that someone's a tourist when they're walking. Like, you know that's basically the gem show is not one specific canonical event, but a collection of kind of unofficial.
It's like 3 big ones.
It's a lot. There's people will set up like a booth with some rocks on it in an alley and call it the gem show.
Okay, that is true. But it's like the one it used to be the TCC. And there's the one that's like, it's like a big open air one. Open air plaza.
Is that the one in the big yellow tent?
Yeah.
On 29th?
Yeah.
Or 22nd, whatever that is. 22nd. Yeah, I don't know. But I see people walking to that booth, and it just seems like a horrible idea because you don't walk anywhere in Tucson, but especially right there.
It is hilarious how many miles those people probably walked from their hotel.
Yeah.
There's not even anything like around there besides the Gem and Minerals show either.
There's a Waffle House, the Gem and Minerals show, a gas station where I think a lot of crack is sold there.
Hopefully.
And a restaurant supply store.
Which they can't use.
Yeah.
So they're SOL. Yeah, I like the Gem and Minerals show because I like the fossil dude who's there, and he sells like fossils all the time. But I've never bought a fossil from him, and I kind of want to though. You know what I mean?
The fossil dude? I don't know the fossil dude.
There's like one dude who used to go to the TCC. This is years ago. He used to go to the TCC, and he would just have like a collection of fossils that you could purchase, and they start at like $50, and they went up to like $400.
They're like birds? What are the fossils of?
A lot of them are like sea animals. Like here's an ammonite.
What is that?
An ammonite?
Yeah, I don't know a lot of words, dude.
You know the like thing that looks like a shell, but it's like corkscrew the whole time.
Anemone? Anemone?
Anemone is not an ammonite. Anemone is a living animal. Ammonites are entirely extinct.
The word was similar enough, dude. I went for it. I don't fucking know. I saw Finding Nemo.
You did see Finding Nemo. An anemone is the thing that's like kind of pokey, spiky boy.
Like a sea urchin?
No, sorry, that is a sea urchin. You're right. I don't know what an anemone looks like now I'm thinking about it.
Sick, dude.
Awesome. They live in an anemone listen, Nemo had trouble with it. I can have trouble with it. Nemo lives in an anemone. Yeah.
No, I look like the smart one, dude. Thank you. You really fucked that up.
I really messed that one up, golly. Yeah.
Speaking of being smart, though, like I was saying before, I finished, or almost finished, Meditations.
Nice.
By Marcus Aurelius, which has made me feel like a better person, even though that book is very hard to read.
Yeah.
It's like I've said before, but because there's no narrative, it's just, he just gives you life lessons, and a lot of them are repetitive. Like, he really hates the idea of fame, and he wants to tell you that every other chapter.
Yeah.
He's like, hey man, fame is garbage, don't live for fame, don't live for whatever, which is cool. One of the thoughts about that he had that I thought was interesting was, if you depend on fame for your own personal success or for your own personal goals, you're putting your future in the hands of another man. Like, your ability to control your own future and be fulfilled by your own things is taken away when you desire someone else's attention, basically.
Yeah.
Which I thought was fucking sick, dude. Because this dude lived before, like, modern fame existed.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I don't know. It was just like a super interesting thing. And like I said before we started recording, there's a sentence where he basically invented "it is what it is," which I think is perfect. I very much like his way of thinking, even though it's like very idealistic. And I think that's, when I first was looking into Marcus Aurelius, some asshole on some blog was like, a lot of people who just get into philosophy look at him and think that's the way that they should, everybody except for themselves should be, whatever type of thing. Which is true, but but I don't know, I thought it was interesting. I'm not fully finished yet, but I imagine it's more of the same. Another one of the interesting thoughts that he had was, basically, he was framing it in terms of evil, and like, you know evil because it exists, and it kind of has always existed in some form, and basically getting to this point of history is just a cycle. Mm-hmm. Everything that you see in your lifetime is a same or another version of the same concept that existed in every other lifetime before you. So then, like, the idea of wanting to live a super long life is kind of silly, because you're just going to see the same things happen over and over and over again. Anyway, yeah, like, super interesting. It's just hard to read, and it's hard to get into, and hard to stick with, because there's no draw.
Yeah.
It's like the next chapter is going to be the same things, kind of rephrased and maybe more specific or more in another category or whatever. But I don't know. It was a hard first start for books of the year.
Yeah, I mean, he's a really interesting person. I read Meditations and I was like, wow, this is really interesting. I think I have some takeaways from here. I think as time's gone on, I lean less on stoicism, but yeah, I'm glad you're finding some use out of it.
What's your thing then?
My thing?
Yeah, like, if you had to, if you say that there's a general category of philosophy that you vibe with or you are interested in, if it's not stoicism, what is it?
I don't know. I haven't found it yet. I haven't found one that fits what I'm about, I think, is the thing. What's
your disagreement with stoicism?
I think it's too, like, unemotional. Maybe if I go back and reread it again, but I felt like a lot of his vibe was like, set aside your own emotion and like view something as like objective and then move forward. I think, like, as I've gotten older, I feel like I'm somewhat less. I find that less appealing, is I think how I would describe it. Like, I think it's less appealing to me to like set aside how I feel about something and to just look at it like, yes, doing dishes would be good, but then, like, I don't like doing dishes though. You know what I mean? And I think, like, looking at like those things from like the two different angles, like a Stoic would say, even if you don't like it, you need to do the dishes so you don't feel and just do it anyway. But like for me, it's like, yeah, it sucks, but just doing it anyway doesn't really help me. Like, that's not like where my motivation to do the dishes comes from. You know what I mean?
The motivation doesn't come from wanting to do the good act of doing dishes.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm going to let the screen turn off on the video and see if it keeps recording.
Yeah,
because I don't like that it's turning off. Anyway, it's not that you can't feel. It's like, you could feel, but try to not. You can feel, but don't give it your attention. No? Okay, I guess it's still recording. Nice. I'm going to keep moving the mouse, though, because I didn't trust that.
Yeah, I think that's my opposition to it. I think there's a lot of really interesting things about Stoicism. I think one of my favorite pieces is when he's talking about, like, where his, I forget like the exact wording, but it basically was like, if there's a God, then being a good person should be enough for that God. And I was like, I like that idea. So you just try to be a good person always, that should be enough. And I think I vibe with that piece to it. I vibe less with the like setting yourself aside and like looking at something, because I mean I'm me, like I'm like objectively I'm the person experiencing these things. I'd prefer to experience enjoyable experiences more than just doing the duty, if that makes sense.
I mean that's true, but isn't the best version of you willing to do dishes? Like, someone has to do the dishes.
I tell myself.
Well, I yeah. Like, obviously, we're all lazy. I'm super lazy, and I hate whatever. That's what I said. You know, everybody should act like this except for me. Like, I'm whatever. But to me, the framework that he lays for the way that a person or like a man should be seems pretty solid. Like, I can't argue with it. The only thing I would say is that his definition of good, he doesn't talk about. Like, it kind of assumes this objective moral good that we all agree on, which I don't think we really have. But the like overall vibe of good deeds, and he kind of generally talks about like you see other men doing bad things and you know that you don't want to do that, so no. Yeah. It's like, what does it mean?
Yeah, I mean I do think that you're right about a lot of that. I did think that like the idea of like doing good deeds, that's the part that was appealing to me, right? Like moving forward, like that's the part that I think has stuck with me the most. That's like why I want to do volunteer work, because I think that's like a good deed to do.
Sure.
I think that the idea of like setting, like doing your dishes, right? Like I don't do the dishes to be a good person. I do them because the negative consequences of it are that my mental health takes a I just have a fuck ton of dishes everywhere. And on the converse side of it, my mental health gets a boon when I know I have clean like my kitchen is clean, like there's no dishes anywhere. Like when that tips, like that's why I do it. So it's not like it's a good deed to have the dishes done, because like in theory you've done your duty as a human, so it's like maintaining a home, you did your dishes. But to me it's more like it helped my mental health. That's why I do the dishes.
But wouldn't your mental health be better because you know you did your job? Like you're not procrastinating that thing in the back of your head of, I know I have a mission, which is very simple in this case, which is doing dishes.
Doing the dishes.
But not doing it and knowing you have to, and knowing that you are the one that has to do it. I think that's like the other key.
Yeah, I mean, there's no one else who lives with me aside from my dog, and she's not gonna do dishes. Yeah. So I mean, I gotta do them. I think that is a part of it, but I don't think that's like the whole thing, right? Like I don't think that the whole reason why doing the dishes feels good is because I've done the duty, right? Mm-hmm. I think to some extent it's like this is like a good thing for my mental health. Like I don't have the dishes. Like I reduce that stress of like knowing that I need to do these dishes, and like it's gone now. So I think a lot of it is like, that's why I think that like stoicism on its own doesn't cover enough for me. Like I think it's too impersonal view of yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but the whole argument is like emotions don't even help you. And then it's like,
I don't know if that's true either.
I don't have an argument against it. Every time I feel something or like react emotionally, not feeling in general, like obviously you could have feelings, but the simple idea of giving thought to the things that you don't like is useless. Like I can't argue with that. I can think about why I don't like it and build an opinion.
You know.
And if I'm motivated to do so, I can try to change the world because of my opinion.
Yeah.
Most of the time I'm just thinking about something that makes me mad to no end.
Oh yeah, like if you're just spiraling and you're just like really like tunnel visioning onto something you don't like.
Yeah, or like like rage breaking a controller or whatever. Not that I've done that. I haven't done that in years, but it's a thing, and it never helps. It's never a good thing.
Yeah.
If you would think, just be like, oh, whatever. I don't know.
Do you know the mouse close to you, by the way?
Yeah, I'll grab it.
just realizing you're gonna like continuous like lean over every few seconds.
Yeah, it's a difficult setup here. I didn't really think. Oh, I'm on Linux. We could talk about that.
Oh yeah.
So this is the first episode we're recording on a Linux desktop. I have fully moved off of Windows, kind of. I say fully because I have a Windows laptop still that I have plugged into my TV. Just because in 2023, I think a regular person still needs a Windows computer, unfortunately. But anyway. Different weird setup for the computer stuff this time, and so I have to keep moving mice to make sure nothing falls asleep, and hopefully all this stuff works.
I mean, it looks like it's all working. I mean, the red line on Audacity, like, not exactly working out properly is very funny, but it looks like it's going okay.
There are a lot of graphical issues with Linux Audacity that are, I hope, okay. But as long as it saves a file, we're all good. And I do like Linux in general. I was trying to play some games, and they ran poorly. But being honest with myself, I really don't care. I don't.
Yeah.
You know, so like I said, the Windows computer is still there for the other games that I just can't run on Linux. I think I have like 400 games in my library that I can install on Linux. But most of them are just games I would never want to play, you know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's cool. I enjoy it. I don't miss any other part of Windows besides maybe the drivers for my audio interface, which I don't have on Linux, so I can't use a lot of the features of it, which is fine, you know? Because I don't know how to use any of the features of this fucking thing. So,
Fair.
Speaking of OS switches, though, the bigger one, I think, is that you, after all these years of having an Android phone, you finally switched to iOS.
Yeah, this is a long break in between podcasts. Yeah, I switched to an iPhone from an Android. After using a MacBook for work now for a little over a year, I kind of like it. I quite like it.
Yeah.
And also the other side of it, too, is like I didn't need the stuff that an Android can do that an iPhone can't do anymore. Because I'm at home almost all the time. Or I'm not at home, at somebody else's home. Because, like, we're all adults now. So, like, we're not hitting the streets. You know what I mean?
What were the things that you, in your head, that you used as a selling point for Android?
I mean, back in college, like, I jailbroke all of my Android phones just so I could get whatever I wanted on them for $0.
Yeah.
So I'm now admitting to on a podcast. But anyway.
Statute of limitations or whatever.
Yeah. This is years ago.
Yeah.
I used to do stuff like that. And you can do it on an iPhone. I just think it's easier to do it on an Android. Also, it's like less overhead, just more tooling to do that on an Android, I feel like. And also, like, generally, Androids have better specs, so they're just a little more powerful overall than their iPhone counterparts, but they don't work very smoothly.
Yes.
But to me, it was like, oh, I don't need it to work smoothly. Like, I need it on the cutting edge. And now I'm like, I just need it to send a text message once in a while. Like, really. Like, that's really, like, all I use my phone for is, like, send text messages, and I need directions when I'm driving.
Yeah.
And that's like 50 to 70%. Oh, and also to get the multi-factor authentication code. So, like, your code to log in is, like, 04862B, and you just, like, type that in, like, whatever. Works out. That's really, like, all I use the phone for, really, if I know. So,
yeah, I think obviously I like Synovia calls me an Apple dick rider all the time, which is fine. Like, that's fair. I wouldn't say I'm not. But I also have to look at it kind of objectively and say, like, Android's cool. I like Android devices enough. I like, every time I see footage of one being used, like the new Samsung S23, whatever the fuck, I see a video of it and I'm like, oh, I want to touch that. It's appealing to me.
yeah.
But it's very much a, like, black hoodie high schooler vibe. Like, the kid in high school who wears a black hoodie and you're not sure if he has other clothes, and and he'll set up every, like, emulator possible on his Android device. He'll be playing Pokemon and he has, like, a 46-hour save in that fucking emulated version on his phone. A truly unhinged behavior. It makes sense for this person, and when you say, all I do with my phone is send some text messages and whatever, you sound like a boomer. But once you hit, like, 26, it's like, well, what do I need Pokemon on my phone for?
What do I need? Like, that's the other thing. I'm right next to my actual computer.
Yeah.
For, like, what is it? Like, aside from sleeping and running every day, my general work days are, like, I'm at my computer desk with my real deal computer right there. Like, I don't need to be like, let me go on the old cellular device and play some Smash Bros. Or whatever. Like, I'm not doing that.
Well, and there's better versions of it. Like, the Steam Deck is, I've heard, a very good emulation device.
Oh, that makes sense.
So it just seems like the idea of having an Android phone for all that customization stuff isn't the best version of that these days even. So
yeah, I think we've moved on. And the other thing, too, is, like, my Android phone isn't that old, but it stopped getting security updates. And I was like, why? how quickly do you sunset these? Because I know Apple doesn't sunset their stuff for like a long time. Like they do security updates like until like basically end of life for their product. So
you would expect like 5 years of updates on an Apple device.
I didn't have my old Android for 5 years, and I stopped getting security updates like a year and a half ago. So
yeah,
it's like it's a little questionable how quickly they were like, you're on your own. And there's stuff that I have to get used to though. Like on an Android, it's really easy to close apps. Like I'm just like close this app. I haven't quite mastered the like swipe to like open up the full like cascade window of all the shit I had opened up. I have to manually close it all.
Yeah, I guess it does take a little while. It feels so second nature, but it is kind of weird because you have to flick from a very specific point. I don't think about that stuff, but like my nana got an iPhone a couple years ago, and when you're just like, for example, the notification center on iOS, if you drag from the center top down, you'll bring up notifications.
Yep.
If you bring from the center or from the top right down, you'll bring up all of your settings and widgets and toggles and shit.
Yeah.
So telling my nana like move your finger like this instead of like this, it's insane. You sound crazy, you know.
Yeah.
So you'll get used to it though.
Yeah, there's like a learning curve to it. But when I told my brother, I was like, literally Apple phones are made to be like as simple to use as possible.
Yeah.
Like they're literally like an idiot can use these phones, and I was like, I'm certainly an idiot. I should be able to use these phones.
Yeah, but I'm happy you finally have the blue bubble because honestly, dude, it's why we haven't really talked a lot over the past 5-6 years ever since I moved to Seattle and stuff. You know.
Oh my god.
It's just been a wedge, and it's this green bubble bullshit. So I'm
god.
happy we're finally friends again.
Yeah, we can be Apple boys again. Honestly, I think I am gonna get a MacBook at some point. I do really like working on one.
Yeah.
And I think it makes development like way easier. Which is like really weird to say. Like I'm gonna get a thing to write code on specifically. But it is nice. The other option is to like get another laptop and then just like slap down and then just put Linux on it and try that out. But I think I've had a better experience with Apple product than just Linux, to be honest. Even though it's like way more expensive.
Yeah. Well, really, I would be using an Apple device for everything. I really love the iMac. It's the all-in-one screen computer thing, and they're pretty reasonably priced, but because I don't like having a giant desktop at my feet. It just feels very old to me. So I would have replaced my Windows machine with just an iMac, but the problem is this external speaker setup that I have is you can't control it with volume controls on an Apple product. Like if I have an Apple keyboard and I'm using a MacBook on a monitor and it's using like monitor speakers, I can't control the volume, and it goes like that with any external speaker because of whatever some sort of software I should know because I'm like a software person, but some shit in software makes it so that your Apple device can't control another device. And so because of my inability to use speakers with my desktop, I have to use something other than Mac OS. So I use Linux. Yeah.
That makes sense.
I also installed Windows 11 on my laptop.
Oh, how'd it go?
It went okay. And it runs pretty okay. I don't really have any problems with Windows 11. I just thought I would do both of them. I would take one computer from Windows 10 to Pop OS, which is what the distro of Linux that I'm running, and then the gaming laptop, whatever thing I have, running like the newest version of Windows. So that's all commercials and bullshit. And this is, oh god, I hope this works. You know, there's no good computer in my house.
Like, really like no in between with those two. It's funny. Yeah, I think I'm gonna get a new desktop at some point because mine is running like a 1070. So whenever the 1070 came out, it's how old my desktop is.
Do you want my GPU?
I don't think my power supply can take it. That's the problem. Is it's like my power supply is, I think, like was close with the 1070, and I was like, that's fine. And now I have to, like, if I'm going to upgrade the GPU, I need to upgrade the power supply, and I think I might have to upgrade the motherboard. And I'm like, at that point, forget it. Like, I might as well just upgrade all of it.
Yeah.
But thank you for the offer. But yeah, I think I'm just going to get a new one, and just like I'm going to have somebody else build it. Like, I don't need to build my own.
Yeah.
It's like pre-built.
That's what I thought too. I was looking into Origin PC because I didn't want to build my own. Especially because one time I'd like dropped something on my motherboard and broke a whole fucking thing. So I didn't want to do anything.
Yeah, the other thing too is like warranty. And it's like if anything goes wrong with this computer, you can just be like, hey, that computer has a problem. Otherwise, it's like first step, troubleshoot the problem. Then contact that part's like warranty people. And they'll be like, I don't know, troubleshoot it like this. And you're like, well, all right. And then you troubleshoot it like that. Like, no, if you get it from somebody else, you're just like, shit's busted, dog. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh, we'll fix.
Well, then there's downsides of like even doing your own build and buying your own parts. Like I don't know if you trust yourself doing that stuff, but I don't trust myself doing that stuff anymore. I don't have the patience. Well, like
I'm the opposite. I trust myself way more than I did when I was like younger.
I trust myself in my ability to make good decisions.
Yeah.
I don't trust myself in my ability to execute decisions well. I'm more of a theory kind of person, you know? In theory, if I buy these parts, they'll fit together.
Yeah.
And in theory, I can use a screwdriver to put the parts in the computer and turn it on successfully.
Yeah.
In practice, I end up with a lot of extra screws, and my motherboard in this computer, I think, is only held on by one solid screw. And it's like vertically standing up in the thing. And there's a GPU plugged into it, holding it, constantly weighing it down. Very precarious. Police sirens went off just as I said that.
Yeah,
so
they're coming for you, dude. Honestly, you deserve to get arrested for what you just said to me. No, I think I'm more more capable of doing it correctly, but there's just so much to keep track of. Like, what direction is the fan blowing? Is that like you have to like write like in and out on fans, like all that stuff, and it's just like this is too much. Just too much to do.
Yeah.
And like if you want water cooling, then you gotta like set up the water cooling and stuff, and it's just like I don't want to do that. Honestly, like, I just want to get a computer and I want to turn it on a start up a video game and I want to play it. Because that's what I use my desktop for, to be 100%. That's what it's for.
Well, that's why, that same way of thinking is why I play console games. I went back to console games because I hate everything about computers. Also, if you could hear the sirens outside, it's because the window is open. I thought it'd be a cool new concept for the podcast to give it more of a you're in the room with us vibe if I just let a bunch of outside air in, you know?
A lot of podcasts we have the window open.
Yeah, but they're not intentional. That's just me being like, well, fuck, I forgot to close that window and I'm not going to stand up mid-podcast. So.
Yeah, also we kind of changed the vibe on the podcast. We're just going to talk about whatever.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, I imagine the thing would be we talk about whatever. We don't have a hard deadline. We don't have a hard schedule. The thing at this point is, from my perspective, we work on shit. When we have enough shit to talk about, we get together and we talk about it probably once a month. That just seems like a more sustainable way to do it. It seems like a more fun way to do it. It always felt odd to me because I've always been stuck to this idea of release dates and like release at midnight because I just love releasing at midnight. I love that feeling. But I'm not Halo, you know? So like I don't need to do that. I could just record an episode and release it whenever. I don't need to do it 3 days in advance.
You know what's funny is that a lot of the games that I grew up playing, they didn't do midnight patches. They patch on Tuesdays in like the middle of the day.
Oh, like PC games?
Yeah, like League of Legends and World of Warcraft, they patch day is Tuesday, and I think it's like in the morning, like at 8 or 9. So if you regularly played 9 to 12 on Tuesday.
So you had to miss school for it. That's why those kids were out. Every Tuesday.
No, you just patch. You just come back and play later.
Mm.
Play all night. You like patch. Sorry, I'm drinking soda and we have the hiccups, but it's fine. Yeah. I was always surprised because like that's how that works for a lot of like PC games is that they patch on Tuesdays, or like now on Steam it's just like you start up Steam and it's like 500 games update and you're just like it's Friday at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Who is updating this since Friday at 5 p.m. Like
There's one thing we've kind of lost though. I think the physical in-person midnight releases are some of my favorite experiences I've ever had in my life. Not like top 50, but they're some of my favorites. Like when I went to the GTA 4 midnight launch, Resident Evil 5, Skyrim, you know, like big games that you're waiting in line with other human beings to go and buy it at midnight and like you don't even know if it's good. It's a crazy thing, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think that is one of those things where it's like the internet has made it so that everything is so like splintered. It's like there are games that release that has like huge hype I've never even heard of before in my whole life, and I'll just like catch it because like in one of the news sites that I read news from, we like, yeah, this like crazy exciting game just launched, and like all these people bought it, and I'm like, wow, I never even heard of this game before right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like the Twitter thing too, where Twitter or Zenobia would tell me about what's happening in her Twitter bubble, and a lot of the time I'm just like, who, what, like this person who cheated on what, whereas mine is like a fucking NVIDIA drama with Gamers Nexus or whatever, it's just like totally different shit. But to me, it feels like the biggest thing in the world. Or like there's a podcast I listen to where it feels like there's a huge following and a lot of people care about it and whatever, and it's kind of like been falling apart over the last couple of weeks, and it feels like a huge deal because to me it's like Friends ended, but to most people they've never heard of this. So like the idea of something as popular as Friends or like the Super Bowl that we don't give a fuck about right now, right? Like that's the whole bubble thing. Like mainstream America is gone. That's like the most mainstream thing that still exists today, and we don't care about it.
Yeah. I've never cared about football, so.
But it's the event of it, like because even when we used to watch it when I was a kid, we didn't care about football. But I remembered the moment when Janet Jackson, when it popped out, like the cultural moment of seeing it pop out, everybody at once. You know what I mean?
I didn't watch that Super Bowl either.
Anyway, Justin Timberlake, call it anyway, it was a titty on TV. It was a big deal.
I remember that it was a big deal, but I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, well.
Titty on TV. I'm playing World of Warcraft. Let's go.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting. Like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know what's popular, but I also don't really care. Because it's like it doesn't exist anymore. The idea of like a single popular thing.
Yeah.
Like, do you know who Ice Spice is?
Nope.
Yeah, to me, she's like incredibly popular right now because in my Twitter bubble, she is. But her album sold like 30K or 20K the first week, which is nothing, What's the biggest thing happening in your Twitter bubble right now?
I'm not on Twitter anymore. I'm on Tumblr, which actually what's happening on Tumblr.
I would rather not talk about Tumblr. What's going on in your like?
I'll tell you what's happening on Tumblr. So recently, Tumblr added polling to the site, and so everyone was polling everybody else all the time, and then a meme developed, and it was a poll with like regular ingredients for a cake, and they said the percentage on this poll is the percentage I'm gonna make a cake with this, and it was like 60% vanilla essence or vanilla extract.
Wait,
they made a cake that was 60% vanilla extract.
Oh,
and it wasn't bad apparently.
Isn't that more of a soup?
No, they baked it until it was cake.
Ugh.
Like they said it had the texture of banana bread.
Okay.
That's what's happening in Tumblr world.
Does that feel like a big moment culturally for you? Like, I guess what I'm getting at is,
I think everyone on Tumblr anyone who's still on Tumblr or me who just recently joined Tumblr.
That's embarrassing, dude. You just joined Tumblr.
What? Yeah. It's fine. I'm realizing that I don't have a home on social media anymore. I don't have a social media that I'm like very interested in anymore. But I think everyone who's on Tumblr probably ran into the vanilla essence extract thing because it is like popped up everywhere, and it was like a kind of big deal where they were like, and even like a YouTuber that I watched was like, I'm gonna make this cake also and see how it goes.
Yep.
And she did, and she said that she didn't bake it enough and there was too much alcohol in it, and she was like, I'm feeling a little tipsy from drinking, basically like eating alcohol in cake form.
Nice. Have you seen, speaking of like weird things, trends in social media, have you seen people putting Subway Surfers videos into the content that you consume regularly?
I don't even know what Subway Surfers is.
I was just asking a group of friends this yesterday, and they also didn't know what Subway Surfers was until I said, do you know Temple Run?
I know Temple Run.
Subway Surfers is like Temple Run, but it's a different game.
Oh!
The same thing happened yesterday.
God, dude!
You've seen it,
yes,
right?
I have.
So for people unfamiliar with what we're talking about, the new thing, my understanding is that the attention span of Gen Z or whoever is so short these days that just having a single feed of video content is not enough. So people will take their important information and make it kind of half the frame, and the other frame will be gameplay of Subway Surfers, which is just very like high bandwidth input or whatever, auditory visual input, just to grab your attention, and then you like your eyes are drawn to the rest of the information. So what do you see it on? Who's making content with Subway Surfers on it?
It's a lot of like TikToks and shorts, YouTube shorts.
And is it ironic, or is it people genuinely doing the...
No, so what I've seen is that people don't have their own visual. It is just Subway Surfer, and they speak over it.
That's the key to this podcast, dude. We should replace this whole video.
It's just Subway Surfer. What's funny is that prior to Subway Surfer, it used to be this like jump thing in Minecraft where they would like do obstacle courses in Minecraft.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I was like, who needs this? Like, I'm just listening to dude talk about dinosaurs or something, and it's just like, yeah, let me tell you about dinosaurs, and I'm just like, what's happening? Like,
it's incredibly confusing. Like, if I were to try to show that content to my nana, she would be mad about the state of the world.
I mean, I'm not super stoked on Subway Surfer showing up in my dinosaur videos, but you know, it is what it is.
I've seen people try to freak the same concept, and I saw one where it was the first, so like on Instagram you could do multiple images, right? It's like a slideshow. Mm-hmm. So you swipe to see more. Where the first one will be like a hot girl with her ass out, wearing clothes and whatever, but it'll be like 500 likes, and I'll post her or her profile, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then the rest of it is just a news story. Someone like posting content on their blog. Jeez. And it's
like... that's on YouTube too.
But... And I mean, it's been the thing forever, right? Like a thumbnail with titties or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, there's no titties. But it feels so gross when you see how much attention, like effort going into it.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
If you grew up listening to like electronica music on YouTube back in the day, there's like one picture of Olivia Wilde that is on every one of them, and I can't separate that image and Olivia Wilde and the electronica music. Just like those three things are now just like have merged into one for me.
Nice.
But that's been going on for a while.
That's funny.
She's wearing like a white and black striped sweater, and that's.
I'll know when I see it now.
You probably will never see it because that is old. That's like old. Like if you're looking up like 20.
Like 09
20
YouTube
yeah
techno.
like 09 like 2012 like somewhere in that range like techno like you might, but like real like I listen to dubstep still like Skrillex was big when that image was taken.
I had a dubstep era. I had like a year or so where I was into dubstep. I followed a music blog that would post a bunch of new hip hop and stuff, and then they like once dubstep got popular they started posting it. So I kind of had a phase. But going back to that shit, it's all so bad, dude. I don't know if I could invest the time just to find the Olivia Wilde picture these days.
I will find it and just send it to you. But
if you don't already have it, it's your wallpaper.
My wallpaper is wood.
That fits you.
What's funny is I showed my brother the wallpaper and he's like, why do you have wood? And I was like, I don't know, because when you say it like real deep, you sound very manly, like wood.
Wood.
Yeah. Why is your wallpaper wood?
Wood. Yeah, just say.
Yeah.
Just think about it while you're saying it. You sound cool as fuck.
Yeah.
Wood.
What was I gonna say? I think dubstep had something about it. I don't know enough about like why stuff becomes popular, but I think there was like something about dubstep that made it so popular.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the whole thing of drops is just so
ubiquitous now.
Yeah, and drops have always been a thing, even in hip-hop, because that's the only genre I really know very well. And I was listening to a song from, like, 03 recently. It's a 50 Cent song. And it has this thing of he's starting the verse, and then a couple lines into the verse, the beat starts. And it's been around forever, but it feels like these days every song has that. And it might be because of that dubstep era.
Yeah.
Of, like, everything has a drop now.
That might be true. I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but I also had a dubstep era.
Yeah. Okay, what was I going to say? I was going to say something. Oh, we were talking about emulation earlier. Have you heard about the GoldenEye remake, remaster, whatever?
Yeah, I think you told me about it, actually.
Probably. Well, okay. So they released just basically a port of the original Nintendo GoldenEye, Nintendo 64 GoldenEye, for Nintendo Switch and Xbox. They're both kind of different. They run kind of different, but they both are to me like pretty much unplayable and really fucking bad, especially on the Switch. It was awful. Look how they massacred my boy. It was horrible. And I've played GoldenEye, like I played it originally on Nintendo 64. I played it on emulators. I played it every few years since it came out, basically. I know what it used to look like. I know how it used to feel. And this looks and feels like shit. And what made me sad is that there's that leak that we talked about 2 years ago when it happened, basically a full remake for the Xbox 360 that was made and scrapped in like 2007. Mm-hmm. And it leaked in 2021. I legally cannot say I played it, but I played something very similar, and I watched a lot of YouTube videos about the remake, so I can say that the remake seems like a totally better experience, and the fact that business got in the way of something and kind of ruined everything in the process just makes me kind of rethink the best form of economics, you know? Maybe we're not living in the dreams.
Come back to my side, baby.
Fuck that, no.
I think that in a weird way, I feel like it would have bombed in 2007. I think it would have bombed on the 360.
What? That is the craziest. Why?
I think that nostalgia has been gaining huge amount of steam in like our age bracket, who's like the funders of these things. Okay. And I think when the Xbox 360 was there, that nostalgia wave hadn't like hit its peak, and also most of us weren't earning enough money to like consistently be able to buy games, and we had to like pick and choose back then. I think now that it releases, if it released and it was really good, people would be so excited because like one, nostalgia trail, and two, disposable income. I think more people have disposable income, or at least income that they're willing to spend on things that they enjoy, which is disposability and income.
See, I agree that it exists for our generation, but I disagree with the overall thing because I think the generation before us played video games. Like people who are 10, 15 years older than us were playing GoldenEye, like my older cousin who showed me GoldenEye. I realistically, like I was 3 when GoldenEye came out. I would never have played it and wouldn't have this memory of it without him, the older cousin. So like him being the generation that would have paid for it, he would have been 20 in 2007, like the perfect age.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I think those people are still going to buy it. And I think that now we're like additional to it. So I think I think we're like more than doubled, because I think our gen is bigger than the previous gen. And also like the amount of people in our generation who play video games is like way higher than the amount of people in that generation that play video games still. And anyway, so like I think it wouldn't have done well enough to be like commercially viable, basically. I feel like they probably spent more money making the game than they would have earned from like selling the game.
Well, even if that's true, and even if they didn't release it for businessy reasons, the problem is that the game that they made in 2007, that version of GoldenEye is the best version of GoldenEye. Yeah. Like, it looks great, it plays great, it's all the good stuff about GoldenEye. Like I would pay almost any amount of money for an official release of that game. Mm-hmm. But they just won't, because of whatever. And so, also, well, whatever, I was going to look up who won the Super Bowl to see if I won my bets, but I don't really care. I'm not going to look it up right now. Anyway, yeah, it makes me sad that version of the game never came out, and it makes me sad that I'll never play it.
I respect. I'm sorry that happened. Yeah. I didn't know. I was never big on the GoldenEye hype train, so yeah. I didn't know that it had come out officially. I also didn't know it was not good.
Well, it's like they emulate it on modern consoles, but they don't do anything to make it better, and so you just get like a really crispy and still low frame rate version of this game that you remember.
No.
Crispy is different from crunchy. Crispy is good. Crunchy is you know what I mean? Like,
the thing is that like you're like really high def, but like 7 frames a second. So it's like kind of hard to play.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like on the Switch, it was seriously unplayable. I think it's 1080p scaled up to 4K on my TV, and then it was maybe like 12 frames a second.
Golly.
There's a Digital Foundry video on YouTube. They do really great like technical breakdowns of stuff, and they showed both versions and how they're both kind of fucked in different ways. It's a total shame that a great product like never got to release.
Yeah,
I don't know, especially if you work on it. Like I've worked on things in my past that are maybe not super exciting, but they came out.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I can tell you as somebody who's worked on stuff that got scrapped.
Yeah. I have too. But
it hurts, but at the same time, you're like, it's fine. But also, it was stuff my heart and soul was in it. I feel like if you make video games, your heart and soul to some extent is in it.
Right.
If you're like a game developer, if you're somebody who sells video games, you probably like it too. But if you're somebody who markets video games, probably an asshole. Like, straight up. I don't think there's a non-asshole video game marketer.
Yeah, probably.
You'd be like Gabe Newell.
He's so good at marketing, you don't even know he's marketing.
Yeah.
He has that like approachable nerd vibe, which is the most effective marketing these days. That's the whole. I was just talking about this with another friend, but the SBF thing, the crypto fraud schemer.
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah.
His whole thing was just that weird nerdy, like, you can trust me because you think I'm smart, so I'll just kind of play into it and I'll be like, ooh, I love Hot Wheels, just like weird shit about me to make you trust me.
You know what's funny is that's my tactic too. Like, trying to work. Weird nerd shit I'm into. Yeah.
I know it works, and I guess that's the thing. It's like, it's crazy seeing it happen on a huge scale. Like, you can really just trick people by looking smart or feeling smart.
My favorite of his stories is he used to play League of Legends in major meetings.
Yeah. And
like product calls and stuff like that. And I was like, that fucking guy.
That's marketing though.
Probably spamming the N-word. I know what people play League of Legends are like. Yeah. I've been called the N-word a lot in League of Legends.
On that note, did you want to talk about Homegames stuff finally? Or did you have other stuff to talk about in our 1 month hiatus?
I'll bring this up real quick, and then we don't have to talk about it too much. I think a while ago we were talking about how it was nice that there was competition to Steam, even though all the competition was kind of garbo.
Oh yeah.
And recently I read an article that was like, almost all that competition is dead now. Like
Origin,
Uplay, like the ones that are defunct like for a while now, like all those are just dying, and they're just like pushing it into Steam. And the only one that survived is Microsoft's Game Pass.
There's also Epic Game Store.
And Epic Game Store is the other one. Yeah, so like it's those three now, and like all the other ones are dying. So it's like the video game industry is apparently like contracting. Like it's narrow. It's like not becoming monopolistic, but it's like there's fewer players to it, if that makes sense.
In the like storefront thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I never really liked that people trust Steam so much. Like, the thing I did recently, right, where I move off of Steam. So I basically say, cut my losses. I have this valuable Steam library that realistically I'm not going to play, and I don't really care. So I have to invest in another platform now. But there's nothing I can do with it. I can't sell my account according to the terms of service. I can't really do anything. Like, this value is just burned. But then they're like, hey, check out this Steam Deck. You can play all those games on like a device on the go. And you can do it's Linux based, and so you kind of get the fighting the man thing of supporting games outside of Windows, but you're kind of just supporting the other man, who's the other one big storefront making billions of dollars a year, not really making anything, just selling product. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
just because they have the name and the trust, they just go.
Yeah.
And that's cool, but I was watching a video about Duke Nukem Forever, and it's like, wow, it took 14 years from announcement to release. And I was like, well, they never announced Half-Life 3, and I'm not even really a Half-Life fan like that. Like, I like Half-Life whatever. But 07 was 16 years ago. That would make it even more than Duke Nukem Forever, and Duke Nukem Forever was such a meme. And it's just, I don't know. Are they the good guys? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I know that they're most likely coming out with another version of Counter-Strike soon, rather than later, and then probably another, like some major updates to Dota 2.
Yeah.
Which are the two games that they actually do maintain, because they're like a professional like scene around them.
Yeah, but that's like gross too. Just make cool shit, dude, and like sell it to me. Ugh.
They sell you
other people's games.
Achievements. What was I going to say? Oh, but I also apparently like Game Pass is doing like crazy numbers.
Yeah.
They control like I think it's like 60 or 70% of the cloud gaming market, so it doesn't include Steam. But yeah, like in the last like 5 years, they like halved the PlayStation stores, and who is it? Stadia dropped from like 10% to like less than 5% in that 5 years, and
Stadia's at like 0 now, right?
Well, it's closed now, yeah, but the numbers were from before it closed. I don't know. It's all about the like Microsoft acquisition of
Activision.
Yeah, Activision Blizzard King.
Yeah, I don't know. I always said I wouldn't sign up for Game Pass because I love this physical media thing or whatever, but once I got the Xbox, it just like does not make sense to not have Game Pass. Like games will come out and be available on Day Pass Day 1 or Game Pass Day 1.
I know.
And that's the whole draw of it, but I still don't like it. You know? It's what happened with music like 6-7 years ago, where I stopped buying CDs and I realized that all of my favorite albums, like the only representation of my favorite album I have is the heart on it on Spotify. It doesn't feel like it's enough.
Yeah.
You know? I want the big dumbass box set. I'm a big American consumer. I want to consume. Give me products. I want boxes and fucking packaging. And
I have come around on the vinyls. I like collecting the vinyls.
I think vinyls are good.
Whenever I go to any store that has a vinyl section, I pop in to see what's up.
Yeah.
So it's good.
It's cool too to go to new record stores. Like people who run record stores are generally pretty cool. There's like a vibe or like a community or whatever. It's not just like one of the Sprite.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. Record stores are fun, and there's a couple here in town. They're like really, I don't know, cool, and you want to support them.
Yeah.
That's the other thing too, is that there's not like there's no. I mean, obviously, Target and I think Best Buy and a couple other large retailers will sell vinyl, but there's no like big box vinyl store.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it is just and they sell vinyl in like here's. Whoever, what's her name, Mariah Carey's Christmas thing.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, that's the vinyl we have at Target. I know this because I check the Target one because I go there pretty regularly.
Yeah, and whatever new Taylor Swift and like whatever Harry Styles type of shit, that kind of pop music.
Glass Animals was on. They had the vinyl for Glass Animals, and I was looking for it, and it was sold out. And I was like, you Zoomer sons of guns. I literally like resorted their whole section looking for that too.
Yeah.
And I was like, shit.
Go to Zia, dude. You pay like $3 more, but you're supporting people.
Yeah, but I have to go to Zia. I go to Target for groceries, for some very specific groceries. Then I go to Target for.
But Zia, if you wear a Zia T-shirt into Zia, you get 20% off. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that. I don't know what
it's a great fucking deal.
That's an insane deal, dude. That's an insane deal. Yeah, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That pays dividends so quickly.
Yeah, their shirts are like $10. And if you want, I don't know. I don't know how they're open.
You buy $40 worth of vinyl, you're good to go.
Yes. Yeah, it's really crazy. Anyway, yeah, records are cool. I have a growing record collection, I think, but my storage is almost full. So at this point, I think I'm kind of done collecting most things. I'm done collecting shoes. I'm done collecting records. I'm kind of over things. I don't have storage anymore.
Dude, it's a second house.
Yeah.
Specifically for storage.
Yeah.
Hoarder mentality.
So Novi's been telling me I need a second house for all of my shit for years because she just doesn't like any of the things I like. So.
I have to get a new bookshelf. I'm out of room in my bookshelf.
Oh, big reader over here. I know how to read. Look at me.
Yeah. Once you're done with meditations, I recommend Life of Pi. I think you would really like it.
I have a whole series, dude. My original goal for the year was that I wanted to read a book a month. Realistically, at this point, it's a book every 2 months because I was so slow on meditations. But I have a list. It's Meditations, Ready Player One, Sapiens. There's a couple more, and then the Bible. I just want to.
You're gonna read the whole Bible in a month?
No, not a month. It's 2 months.
Yeah. Okay.
But also like. My nana got it from me a few years ago. It's kind of like a Bible for dummies. It's the Bible, but then it has annotations on the side. So it's like, in the beginning, God created light. And then on the side, it's like, So God created light. Whatever.
He turned the lights on.
Yeah.
He's the first one in the building. You know what I mean?
His grind set, dude. First
Dude,
yeah,
dude, Sigma grind set, dude. No, he took a rest day. No Sigma grind set. What was I gonna say? That's pretty. That's a good goal to like read that many books. I only read when I'm traveling. That's like a real downside.
So like, do you on a plane?
Yeah. Or if I'm not the driver, I'll read when I'm.
That's nuts. You ever seen someone reading while walking? It's the craziest shit I've ever seen in my life.
No, I have enough going on when I'm walking.
Yeah, dude. When I lived in Seattle, I saw multiple people walking down like downtown sidewalks with a whole book.
No.
I'm pretty sure they were doing it for the look.
Yeah, that's straight up like
so
that's just a fashion statement at that point. Like they want you to know that they're reading whatever book they're reading. There's no way that they're actually reading and walking, especially in like a busy city where like there's cars that can kill you.
Yeah.
If they even tap you, no shot. Either that or they're ready to go. They're just like, hit me. I
Yeah.
can't even
It's like the driver's here, dude. Just fucking waiting.
You don't even look at my they're like like there's the thing about like in movies, like TV shows, if they're like disposable enemies, they always have like a mask so you can't see their face, so that you like dehumanize them basically.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Like stormtroopers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
it's like almost always, like if there's like a disposable enemy, like stormtroopers, basically, like you won't see their face because like it's to dehumanize, like it's to like basically like to separate the fact that your hero is just annihilating like hundreds of thousands of people, basically.
Right.
Like blowing up the Death Star, it's like hailed as this amazing feat, and it was a good feat, but he also did kill like probably like close to 1 million people, so it's like that is like an insane number. But anyway, whatever I was getting at, what were we talking about?
We were talking about something.
Why did that come up?
And then you mentioned the dehumanization of...
They're using a book to dehumanize. Like, they're covering their face that the driver doesn't actually realize, like, that they don't, like, register they hit a person. They're just like, I killed that thing holding a book. It's like a dehumanization.
So it's a favor for the driver to lessen the like, trauma.
Yeah.
I see. And I would never read a book while... Oh, that's a fun question. Is an audiobook reading? That's like a tired debate, but we can have it.
I have a hard time focusing on audiobooks only. I think it might be a little bit of that super mentality bleeding into me.
You need like Subway servers.
Yeah, I need like something to visually look at. Like I tried listening. I have an audiobook for Jennifer Government is not the name of the book, but she's one of the characters in the book. But that might be the name of the book. But anyway, I'm like a quarter of the way through that book because I can't just listen to it on an airplane and just stare at the carpet and be like, this is happening. I feel like that makes me look crazy and I feel insane doing it. So I can't do it. And so like, to me, audiobooks like really like having a book in front of me is like the visual aspect and like the texture aspect and like also like the mental aspect of it. I like it more.
I think one of the things I've noticed is, people say to do like mindfulness meditation, which I have trouble doing just because it's, focusing or whatever, being in the moment. But physically actually reading helps you do that, because if you start skimming the words, you just don't pick up what it is, and it kind of forces you to pay attention, be present. So reading to me is that specific action, like not just knowing the story.
Yeah.
So like audiobooks are fake, and that's not real. We should get rid of them completely. Yeah.
I will say sometimes having characters, like if the narrator or narrators do different voices for the characters, that can make it really nice if you're doing a book with heavy dialogue, or like a section with like really heavy dialogue, because it's really easy to get lost when you're reading, like especially when you're like an hour into reading and it's just like, this person said this and this person said this, and you're just like, fuck, who said what? I'm confused. How do we read this?
That's what I need for that Ian Banks novel you told me about. Consider Flubes.
Yeah, the
Culture series.
The Culture series. There we go. Yeah.
That first one is just like dialogue, description. I don't know, man. I don't read well.
That's sci-fi. That is a lot of sci-fi is like that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't recommend most sci-fi.
One day I'll get there after I read the Bible, dude. That's how low on the totem pole now that the priority is for that.
Respect. If you can get through the whole Bible in 2 months, you can probably read.
I'm not
anything.
realistically going to get through the Bible in 2 months. That's kind of why it's the last one. I think the idea of me like reading, processing, digesting the Bible, and then picking up like the Rick Ross biography, I don't think that makes a lot of sense.
That'd be so funny.
I do have the Rick Ross biography. It's on the list somewhere.
That's good. If you have room in your list somewhere, I do think you'd really enjoy The Life of Pi. It's about like spiritualism, and I think after reading the Bible, it would be interesting to read Life of Pi. I think after reading any like major religious work, to read Life of Pi afterwards, because the whole book is like kind of about that.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm trying to build a good, solid foundation for myself. Like, I went to catechism, like Catholic school. I never really learned the Bible. I never paid attention. I went to school. I never really read like history or Shakespeare. I just never absorbed the things I was supposed to. So I'm kind of trying to fill in gaps now as an adult with books. So it's like I have a book on U.S. history, a book on the Lord. I'm trying to just learn. So. Do you have anything else before we get on to home game stuff?
No, the next book I'm reading is Native American folktale, or not folk tales. They're like Native American, like mythology, basically.
So it's not fiction. It's like edgy atheist, or it's fiction.
I don't know. The other thing too is like it's a collection, so I don't know whether some of those tribes are still around or not. Okay. So like some of them could just be like, there was a tribe and this was their story, and they're like, they're gone now. Or is it like, this is a tribe and they're still around, like this is their story, and like I don't know what their stories are about, because I read a previous one that was about a coyote, like coyotes, and like its symbolism in a lot of native peoples. I hated that book. Not because of like the native part, but it was so boring, and also I don't like coyotes enough to read that much about coyotes. It was like a 500-page book about coyotes. Like, fuck coyotes. Anyway. Home games. Oh,
one thing I forgot to tell you. When I went on that work trip a couple weeks ago, in the Tucson airport, I was talking to a guy who was asking me about whatever, just started small talk. We were talking about work and jobs and whatever. Having a regular conversation. And then this third guy kind of like got into the conversation.
Oh, gosh, okay.
Kind of like when you and we're like, ha, 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 and then you hear, ha, ha. So there's like, ah. And then, so he kind of joined in the conversation, and we were just kind of talking again about a whole lot of nothing, waiting for our flight. And within 5 minutes, he just like casually laid out, well, that's why Joe Biden and the elites are trying to restructure us into a new world order.
God damn.
And we were just like, oh, and then he started going, he was like, look it up. Look up the World Economic Forum. Look up George Soros. Look up whatever. And he's like in the airport saying this like you would say, like the Eagles won the Super Bowl or whatever. Like he was just like just matter of fact. And this lady over to the side she had this look on her face. She was like appalled at this dude, which I just thought was funny, right? I don't really care about what he was saying. I just think it's funny when someone has the balls to say that kind of stuff in public, and just seeing how people react. It was very uncomfortable for me. And people are fucking weird everywhere, dude.
They really are. I've never had somebody randomly strike up that's not true. One time someone did strike up a random conversation with me on the plane where you can't escape.
Oh,
and
terrible.
I was so mad.
Yeah. Were you like trying to keep it going, or were you giving short answers hoping that it ended?
I wear headphones and I read books on airplanes. So I sit down. So I go up and I'm like, I'm window seat or whatever. Can I scoot by? And I was like, yeah. And then I sit down and then I buckle up and I take out my book and I put on my headphones, and that's it. And I don't bump into people. I'm there but not there. That dude was like, hey, how's it going? And I was like, fuck. And I had to move the thing off my ear to be like, I'm going to speak to you while this is off. And I was like, I'm good. How are you? And it was an old dude. And he was like, I'm good. I'm doing better now. And I was like, it's good. I'm glad you're doing better now. Were you not doing better before. I was like, I don't know. Am I supposed to be like, I don't give a fuck? Like, should I have just been like, who cares? Like, I certainly know who asked. Like,
put the headphone back in, look at it in the eye.
It's like, that'd be better. And I was like, yeah, all right. He was like, yeah, I got this. He's like, yeah, I used to have like rheumatoid arthritis or some shit, and then I got this like water fountain from Japan, and I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, do you want one? I was like, I don't have rheumatoid arthritis. And I was like, no, I'm good, man, thank you. And then I put my thing on, and he was like, my wife's over there. And I was like, what? My wife's over there? And I was like, oh, do you want me to like switch with your wife? Like, I'm solo flying, like I don't mind like switch because like you want to sit next to me. I was like, no. I found out later that his wife was doing the same thing to the lady sitting next to him, and I found that out because the lady made eye contact with me, and she's like, did they do that to you too? Yeah. So for like an hour flight from Phoenix to Tucson.
That's not that bad though.
No, but when you want to read and listen to music and you don't want to talk to some old dude about a Japanese water fountain that cured his rheumatoid arthritis when you don't have rheumatoid arthritis and you don't want a Japanese water fountain, like, I don't know. It's like a lot of things, and then I'm like trapped. Like, I'm the window seat. Like, I'm not even in the aisle. Like, I have nowhere to go. I have no escape.
You good?
Yeah, I think my mom just is texting me images of random stuff.
That's cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm good.
But yeah, I think at some point when I become an old man, I'll be like that. Because they don't give a fuck about what's going on and like what your problems are or whatever. I'm an old man. Like, I'm cruising for the most part, you know? I'm going to tell you about my Japanese waterfall. I'm going to tell you about specifics of my life you never asked for. Because what else am I going to do? Like, I'm going to ask you about yourself.
But you're not gonna pre-plan it so your wife is trying to get somebody to buy your Japanese water fountain and you're trying to get someone else to buy the Japanese water fountain. It felt like they were in like a
sales team.
Yeah, like they were like a sales team, and like this was their tactic, is they just flew and they tried to like corner people, and I was like, I wanted to ask at the end after I found out that lady also got hit with this. I was like, how is this effective? Like, is this an effective marketing tactic? It's literally like the captive audience thing. Like, you can't escape. Like, I'm fun. Like, Also, I really legitimately don't think you would ever fly where you and Synovia weren't sitting next to each other. And like, you had picked the seats that you weren't sitting next to each other. Like, purposefully.
Yeah, no. I think the only reason that people do that is because there are no seats together, and they just hope that whatever, that they'll be fine. But one time, it was really bizarre. I was the victim of one of those decisions. I think I told you, right, when I was throwing up on the airplane?
No.
Really?
You never once told me you got airsick.
Well, so it was like the first year I lived in Seattle. I was flying back here to Tucson for a Christmas break. It was a 3-seat thing in the plane, and it was a married couple on the aisle and the window.
Yeah.
And I had the middle seat.
Ugh.
And they never, like, asked me to move. They never whatever. But they were having a conversation with each other the whole time, like, through me. And it was really strange. And in addition, the night before, I had eaten a Domino's pizza that I remember there was one very specific bite that I took of my cheese and olive pizza, nothing crunchy, took a bite of the pizza, and in the sauce was something very hard and, like, didn't feel like food. I thought it was okay. The next morning I was like throwing up and I was very sick and whatever, and then a month later that Domino's was no longer there, and I think it was closed because they were killing people.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was horrible because I was throwing up in a bag between this married couple who was having a conversation on an airplane.
I'm so sorry for everybody involved in that.
It was like a 3-hour flight.
God damn.
You ever held a hot bag of your own situation?
I've never thrown up in a bag before.
Brother, I was praying that bag would hold because it's like paper.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like jiggly,
God,
you know?
geez.
It was awful.
I'm so sorry. I don't get airsick. My cousin got very airsick, and not only did he use his bag, but he used everyone's bag in like the immediate row, and then like the across the aisle row, and then the flight attendants had to bring extra bags.
Holy shit.
I was like, God damn.
Well, that's the thing, is I don't get airsick. It was the combination of it was the pizza combined with flying. But the really weird thing about throwing up on an airplane is that no one looks at you. And so because they're all trying to pretend it's not happening, you feel like you're in the fucking Twilight Zone because it's dead ass silent and no one's acknowledging it. You're just like full on.
No.
Yeah, I really wouldn't want to have that experience again.
Yeah.
I've never used a bathroom on an airplane. I've been on I was on my first airplane with you 8 years ago.
Yeah. And
I've never been on an airplane or I never peed on an airplane or anything like that. It's my goal.
It's fine. I think people make a bigger deal out of it. Well, let me back that up. People do get stuck to the airplane toilet. That's an actual thing that does happen. But I think if you just are there to pee, it's fine.
Yeah.
But like if you do like a really long flight, you're gonna have to.
I bet.
And I hate using public restrooms. I did not enjoy using the plane bathroom, but at some point, when you're on a 20-hour flight, your options are to dehydrate severely beforehand or pee on the plane.
Yeah. I'd rather pee myself.
Just with like a water bottle?
No. Like, just pee myself.
Bringing diapers onto an airplane might be the actual tech sometimes, I feel like.
That's a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know. That's why I won't leave the U.S. I just don't want to fly that long.
You could fly from here to Maine, and it'll take you like 10 hours. You probably have to pee on that flight.
I doubt that's a 10-hour flight.
With like layovers and stuff?
If you get a direct flight, doesn't matter. I'm sure it's a long flight.
It is a long flight.
Alright, is it Homegames stuff?
Flying from here, yeah, it's Homegames stuff. Flying from SF to Toronto, that was a long flight.
Oh, I bet that's probably like, what, a 9-hour flight?
Yeah, something like that. With time difference, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Homegames stuff. I'm trying to think in my head what happened last time. So basically I have a couple updates and like whatever, things like that, but nothing super major. Do you have anything specific about Homegames or something more general?
Delving back, this is like I'm gonna try to really quickly explain a conversation Joseph and I had last time we talked. We did do the podcast. We talked about some stuff about Homegames. Basically, what I was telling Joseph was that I think that the problem of Square is twofold or onefold now. Where basically like it chugs when there are too many nodes on the board, and I think it's because the rate at which the nodes are letting the server know and updates are happening is too fast for Homegames to like render smoothly. So things tend to like chug like around level 7 or 8 now, out of a total of 10 levels. So I mean it's higher up there, but it does still chug. So we were talking about like ways to fix that or ways to work around that. And one of the suggestions that was floated was like an idea for controlling when.
I'm fine.
All right. Controlling when you push updates to the Homegames server. So like basically allowing the person who's making the game to like batch updates to the server. And I think that like ultimately that might be the easiest way to resolve the problem that Square is running into, right? Because if you think about how Square works, it's each level is the number of nodes in each row. And there are 20 rows. So at level 9, there's 180 visible nodes. So there's 360 total nodes, not including the actual like board or the like destination row or any of that stuff. So it is like, it very quickly balloons.
And the reason that's expensive is for two reasons. So it's, 360 nodes in the overall graph, which means that when the server is traversing the tree, it's inserting 360 different entities with all their different properties into one big payload, sending that payload over the network in its entirety, and then the client is going through each 360 thing and doing it one by one by one. So it's just like incredibly expensive.
Yeah, and basically because it's unbatched right now, when like a row updates, it'll just like send updates to the server, and the server is like, shit, I gotta update all these things. So it is like it's not batched right now, and it is like it really can chug. And so at the really high levels, it actually doesn't look like the rows are moving at different speeds. It just looks like they're like here, and they move smoothly, or not smoothly, but they like chug to the next line. They all like exactly the same spot, and so it looks like the rows are just moving like in lockstep at the exact same rate. And probability says that like that probably shouldn't happen since there's some randomness in the speed at which they move across the rows. So anyway, that's like a longer. It's probably like as long as the whole conversation was when we originally had it. But yeah, so I guess like to bring this out full circle, it's to ask you now, like what do you think about the batching? And do you think that we should implement it, or I guess like if we were to implement it, what would that look like? What would that feel like? If we aren't going to implement it, like what's the other workarounds that you could think of?
Yeah. So to confirm, batching, you're saying instead of what you do now, which is constantly sending back and forth every small update as it happens, you're talking about kind of collecting them and then on some sort of interval doing a batch update and kind of updating state all at once. So you remove the back and forth for performance, which makes sense. I think without any interface changes, you could do that today. It would just look hacky on your end because you would basically be kind of managing your state outside of the state management that we have. And you would be doing something like real state that will allow manipulate on interval set home game state based off my current, like it would be shitty. And I think, well, not shitty in effect, but shitty for you. Maybe you would suck at it. Maybe it'd be shitty.
I mean, listen, I don't give myself high marks, but continue.
But I think the ultimate solution is to, like I said, I think I said this last time, but to make it more explicit when you're sending an update that will trigger a render. Right now, I had, the original thinking was the React thing of a change in state triggers a render, which is fine, but when that change in state is not so explicit, it's not super clear why a render is happening when all you did was like set a property. And it also created these weird hacks throughout the code base where, because like for whatever reason we need to re-trigger a render, but we don't have any properties to update, so we'll set a property equal to itself because we know that triggers a render, which is just stupid. Yeah. So, whoa, I say it's stupid. Whoa, I'm just joking. Yeah. Anyway, it should be a better interface where you more explicitly say this is my update, and that will be your batch, your opportunity to do whatever type of stuff. So, yeah, you can do it in the meantime. You can wait for that. I don't really have a timeline or whatever, but it sounds like a fine idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I think I'll give it a go because I think that figuring out how to handle like 360 plus nodes, like maybe like 400 to 500 nodes, I guess is the real number at level 9 or 10 at once. I think that would be like helpful. And that's probably like the most nodes as far as I know that we have in a Homegames game.
Well, the performance test will create it'll create thousands if you let it go long enough. It creates a new node every second or whatever for a long time. I was going to say something and then I forgot. Oh, another thing to consider is that I had this kind of just like a revelation recently. So we've been talking about this partial update, partial re-rendering stuff for, I think, since the whole project started years ago. At this point, 5 years ago, 5 years in April.
Oh.
So we got to get this shit out, dude. I'm tired. But so, fuck. Anyway, the original idea was you have this game, and it, like I said earlier, is represented by a tree. The way that it works is if any subpart or if any subtree in the game has a state change, we re-render and we resend the entire tree instead of just the subtree that changed. So over the network, like I said, if you have 400 nodes on the screen and one of them changes, we're resending all 400. And so the clients already get data. They already have nodes by ID. They already know where they were in the previous kind of state. So there's a way that we can basically just send what updated, and clients will use their past memory and the new information to significantly, like 90+% cut down network payload size, which is one of the things making it slow. Obviously, I would assume a large part of the time is the client side rendering of 400 objects, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's some other stuff we could do to make that faster. I think I've looked into a few different ways that we could, but yeah, just reducing that network size, because we're sending over so many payloads every second. If you can reduce the size, like you really make a huge difference. So,
yeah.
And that would require no changes of any game stuff. It would just be faster for everybody.
Do you think it would run into an issue where, say, like a child like deeply embedded, like a change to that child needs to affect like the larger tree then, or would we have to have like a way of flagging that?
Is there an example of a subtree causing a need for a re-render on the top?
Hold on, give me a second. I don't think so, actually.
Well, because I was thinking something, so like if I have let's say that my plane is my root node, my first thing is like a plane background, and then I have, let's say, an object on top of this plane that leaves a trail as it goes. It's a chemtrail simulator in Homegames. So as you drag the mouse, we're getting like a little dot that tracks, and it stays. If you were to make this dot a child of the plane itself, you might have a problem, because the update... Oh, no, wait. No, you wouldn't, because... Anyway, I'm trying to think of a scenario where it would make sense that a sub, or whatever, that you just said, but I can't think of one. Like, I thought I just had one where the streaks being a child of the parent, instead of the node that created them, would create this, like, out of sync thing, because we're saying, hey, this thing that moved updates, but you're not looking at the thing that came out of it. But in my head, that would still work, but I don't have, like, the example.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is, like, in your example, if the dots are a child of the plane, and every time the plane moved, there'd be a re-render of it and the children, which would be all the dots. So if you had 400 dots,
be inefficient.
You rendered 400. But I was going to also say, and this is, maybe I bring this up and then we set it aside for later. But I think right now, I was just thinking on this. You could, if you have like a board, right, like Square, right, is a board with a bunch of nodes that are children of that board, right?
Okay.
I could make that board a child of one of the children nodes.
What? Why would you do that?
Like, I could.
Okay.
And that would cause an infinite cycle of re-rendering in that case.
Yeah, okay. Oh, you're just saying the general problem of...
if somebody isn't fully aware of what's going on, they can cause an infinite circle.
Got it.
Cyclical, yeah.
I can say X is the root, it has a child Y, and then I can re-add X as a child of whatever. That's just a bug in my thing. I can add a fix for that.
But I was going to ask, is that a bug, or is that behavior that we think has some value?
Any cycle would be infinite. Like, you would never be able to stop.
See.
You would never stop rendering it. Because you would say, the rendering would say, okay, well, I'm rendering X, going down, rendering Y, going down, rendering X, all right, going down, rendering Y. it would just go without any kind of branch to exit. So, yeah, I think a cycle, we would have to catch and remove.
Is there a way for you to...
it's a hot helicopter.
It is hot.
It's loud as fuck.
It is. How would we even catch that?
We can catch a cycle by... You could do something like keep a set of IDs in memory of every node that already exists in the tree, and if someone tries to add a node with that ID, you say no. Yeah, something like that.
I think that's probably the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that's an interesting problem. And there's probably other stuff like with deletions. If I had my only update or only send things that updated logic, how does that work when someone deletes something? How do you send an update to say that this no longer exists as opposed to this is what's changed? There's kind of differences in stuff we would have to do, but just conceptually I think it would work. And I'm not planning on doing it before we launch or whatever. I'm just saying it's a possibility.
Yeah. Well, in the example that you just brought up, when you delete a node, that's affecting the...
It's parent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we would need to implement logic for that. Because right now we say this thing changed. Well, we would need to have the logic to say, well, who is this parent?
It's gone now. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then also say like this. Okay. You know, what you're saying is like this parent or this node and all of its subchildren you need to re-render, but you also need to be able to say this subtree that used to be in this thing I'm telling you about like is no longer there. So anyway, it would change the way that we have to encode the messages. We'd have to encode more data or like in different ways instead of just here is the data. It's like here's something about the data.
Yeah.
Anyway,
a meta information tag.
Metadata.
We had them with the what is it, the HTTP request header.
Oh yeah. That's a real relatable content for love some HTTP request headers, dude.
We were talking about meditations earlier.
I imagine more people can relate to one of the best-selling books of all time than...
There's no way that's one of the best-selling books
it is.
of all time. No.
He wrote that shit in like the year 9, dude. It's gonna be up there just in terms of the length of time.
Fair.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else for Homegames before I start my stuff?
That is all I have.
Okay, so my main thing has been debugging tools because I am debugging a lot of the stuff before we release. One of the things I talked about, maybe on the last episode, I don't remember, but definitely outside of the podcast I've been talking about is wanting this ability to kind of record gameplay sessions. Not video like in the traditional sense, like you save a .mp4 at the end, but something kind of more deeply integrated into Homegames to kind of have a session saved, partially for the kind of fun ability to replay stuff, but also for the ability to debug. So basically what I built is an opt-in type of system where within a Homegame session, you can go to the menu and you can click a button and say like enable screen recording and then like save my session. You click save my session, it'll save a file locally in this new format called HG data. It's not really a new format. It's the same format as our existing game data. It's just kind of serialized into a file. And it has essentially every frame, every update from the beginning of the game to when you clicked the save session button. And like I said, obviously you can take that file and kind of just hit play on it and watch it like you would a video of the game as it happened. You can also go frame by frame and see at this point this was the thing and whatever, and check it kind of visually for graphical correctness when you're making a game. But the other thing is that it is a history of every single state change made in your game. So if at some point your state goes bad, you can replay the states that led you to that bad state. Even if you don't have the logic behind it that got you to that state, you can see what triggered your bad state. And maybe if you have a developer tool that would let you, you could basically take that exact frame data, load it in, and kind of like start from that state, recover from that state in your game, and like trigger your bad behavior. It'll help you fix your bugs faster. So, yeah, pretty simple tool. It's not, like I said, it's not video, but you have a play button. So in a way, I kind of made a video player, which was kind of fun. Just going through, like I said, the frame data. The other thing is that I want to make basically bug reporting. So whenever a crash, whenever an error is thrown locally, I want to have an opt-in thing where this crash will automatically be sent to a server that we run, which will just have the like raw string of what the error was to help us debug. So yeah, I haven't built that menu stuff yet to like actually let people use it, but I have been working on the server. So bugs.homegames.io, make a post request with like bug, like just any string basically, and we store it. There's the obvious potential for someone to just like write a script that makes 1 million posts in a second and then bring down our whole shit and blow up our DynamoDB table and all that kind of stuff. So I'm looking into ways to like rate limit certain IPs or make sure people are authenticated, but I also don't want people to need an account to be able to report a bug, so it's kind of tricky how we do that. Stuff like that. But anyway, I want better error reporting just for better monitoring. The new bugs server I have set up with just an EC2 instance and a Route 53 DNS record, like no load balancers, no no fucking virtual private clouds, like no AWS features that are kind of standard and good.
Yeah.
I'm just bypassing all that shit directly. I spent like 3 hours trying to figure out why my EC2 target group was not accessible by the load balancer, even though the instance was publicly accessible over the internet. And then I was like, this is not the kind of shit I want to be thinking about in my free time when I have to work on this side project. So I'm just going to do this in the shittiest way possible. And like I said, set up a server and point bugs.homegames.io to this IP, and I'll figure it out later. Which to me is the best way to be, because, I
5 years, we got that shit out the door.
Yeah, man. Fucking 5 years. So, anyway.
I did have a follow-on question. Oh my god. When you were saying earlier...
Play video, game state.
Oh, the error log. Is there a way for us to send the HG game data along with the error log?
Yes. Yeah, good question. So, one of my original thoughts for building the HG data debug stuff was for us to have better debugging and whatever when you send these error reports. So yeah, that'll probably be an option. Like, automatically send the .hg data file along with it, but then that would significantly increase the payloads. Instead of just a string with an error, you're sending potentially like a 50 megabyte, 100 megabyte file.
Yeah.
So that might be tricky, but maybe I just use like a subset of the data in the last 5 minutes or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably using the subset would be better, right? Because if in the last 1 minute, if we couldn't figure out why with 1 minute of frame data,
yeah, I'm not gonna be watching.
Yeah, it's like I'm not gonna watch an hour long somebody playing toaster oven 3DS or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it'd be nice too if you could even, because and I would guess in most cases if an exception is thrown, your game stops running, but in case it doesn't and it's caught somewhere and just silently logged or whatever. Yeah, but I was thinking basically just aligning the moment of the crash with the actual recording, so when we open it we just see immediately what was the thing.
Yeah. Nice.
But yeah, anyway, that's going to be helpful. I think what's on my list? Holy shit. I don't know. There's still stuff I have to do. I'm just like I said, making everything better. It's slow and it's whatever. Oh, I did want to go over. Oh, fuck, it's on my phone, which is being used for the camera. So I'm going to hope that it's on my iPad. But we did get 2 listener emails this week.
What?
And they did scare me significantly.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Let's do in mail. I don't care.
Did they scare you because they were excited about it, or?
No, I tweeted one of them and then the other one is not available, so I'll just go to my Twitter for the one. So I was thinking these are either from Alex or these are from a very unhinged listener of ours, and I'm hoping that it's Alex. So the one came in maybe a few days before this one or 2 days before this one, and I don't remember it because it's not in front of me, but paraphrasing it was, it looks great, don't you agree, was the email. I have a box for what's your email address and a box for what's your message. The box for what's your email address, the text was, I think it looks really good, and then the message was, don't you agree? And I was like, okay, maybe this is a bot. Maybe someone's running ChatGPT against my fucking form. You know what I mean?
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. But a couple days later, we got this other one, which was the email address was bitch I want on now, and the message was bitch now or else. So again, the only person I know who's comfortable calling me a bitch is Alex. So I'm thinking maybe Alex was on a bender and he wrote this shit at 2:32 p.m. on a weekday. Or someone out there is listening to this podcast and they're truly unhinged and they're secretly just into us.
Do they want to be on the podcast?
Oh, that'd be cool too. Do you want to invite a potentially crazy person to my home? That'd be fun.
No, I mean over Discord or something, dog. What? So we make throwaway Discords and we invite this insane person on.
We have a Homegames Discord. I just never did anything with
Oh, it'd be perfect. Yeah, Alex, I know, was working in very long hours recently, so if it was him,
then it might be someone else, and that kind of worries me. But hey, we'll release it.
We'll release it. I took bitch I want on now, and then bitch now or else as I want to be on the podcast now or else. But I don't know what the or else on that would be. Are they just gonna keep emailing us?
Fine.
They want to be on the podcast.
You can keep emailing me. That's okay.
Make a pull request, whoever you are,
or use your words.
Make a PR. Yeah, tell us who you are
and what you want. I
don't
understand.
You want to be on the podcast? Make a PR or something so we know who you are, and that you're at least somewhat interested in home games. I don't know.
Yeah, I really don't know what that was. I just thought I would read it.
So those two emails were from the same person, or do we not know?
I don't know because, like I said, you have the thing to put your email address if you want a response, but this person didn't put an email address either time. I'm assuming it's the same person. My nose is getting ready, so we gotta call this off. We gotta do this. We gotta stop this.
All right, fair. This man, so many of those sniffles. I don't do anything else on Homegames I want to bring up.
All right. Well, then in that case, thank you everybody for listening. As always, our music, I haven't done this in a month. As always, our music was done by our friend Tynan. He is Nytan on Bandcamp. That is Nytan, Nytan. You can find us on Twitter at Homegames.io. That is Homegames.io, all one word. We also have a website, Homegames.io. Thank you everybody for listening. We'll see you when we see you.
I'm Yazeed, and that was Joseph. Bye-bye.